Hope you all enjoyed the SEC Invitational. I mean, the college football playoff. I mean, ESPN loves Alabama. I mean, Paul Feinbaum, pick whoever you want to be in.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. That thing fixed, or was that thing fixed? Before we talk about all them face masks. So I didn't even watch the show on ESPN because I already knew it was going to be. Paul Feinbaum, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide. Did they not read the rule book? Oh, they probably did. And they probably got a nice check, put it right in their pocket. I just got my eye exam for 2018. I'm looking at this thing. He wasn't offside. Then all I start seeing is he's yank face mask. Face mask. Face mask. Roll tide, roll tide, roll tide. Merry Christmas, Alabama. Y'all better send ESPN Christmas gifts and everything else.
All right, Vol fans. All right, SEC fans. Catfish here, bringing it to you live from the Volunteer Roadshow Studios in windy Indy. It's about 18 degrees and colder than a well digger's butt. But we've got a show for y'all today that ought to put the hair up on the back of your neck if you're an Alabama fan. We've got a guest on the show, and I'm not going to use his real name because he's, you know how them Alabama fans are. They may come poison all the trees in his house or something like that. But we've got a controversy brewing. This guy, Paul, Ohio State fan, made a video talking about the conspiracy of the rigged college football playoff and the national championship game. And he actually called the playoffs the SEC Invitational. But basically, he's accusing the playoff committee, Nick Saban, the governor of Alabama in conspiracy, bribery, payoff. And I don't know if you know this, Paul, but those are felonies. Those are pretty incendiary comments you've made. You know, you're basically insinuating that the RICO Act has been violated. The mobsters are involved. We need to get the EPA, Department of Agriculture, CIA, Secret Service involved in this. And do you really believe all that? Do you stand by those comments? I'm going to give you a chance to tell the viewers of the Volunteer Roadshow just exactly what brought this harebrained idea of making up this video about this conspiracy. And I'm going to let you have the floor first, and I'm going to give LawTide a chance to defend his Alabama Crimson Tide.
Okay, I do have in front of me the College Football Playoff 2017 protocol, which tells us which 4 teams should be invited into the playoff, which I did call the SEC Invitational. Right after the Iron Bowl, I believe it was 26-14, which the score did not indicate the butt whooping that Auburn put on the Crimson Tide. Alabama dropped down to number 5, and Ohio State was at number 8. And Kirby Horcutt came out, and he said, it's razor thin in our standings before teams 5 and 8. And so that gave Buckeye Nation a lot of hope because in the criteria, which I'm going to read here, it says if there's teams that are comparable, it says then the following criteria must be considered. And it says here's what they look at if the teams are comparable. Who has a championship won? A conference championship won. Well, Alabama was sitting in Alabama when Georgia and Auburn faced off in the SEC championship. Ohio State went to Indianapolis and took care of the number 4 Wisconsin Badgers. So there's 4 criteria here, Catfish. So Ohio State has 1, Alabama has 0. Let's go on to number 2, the strength of schedule. Ohio State played Oklahoma, a top 10 team. They played Wisconsin, a top 10 team. They played several great teams this year. A great win against the top 10 Penn State team. That's 3 top 10 wins in the regular season. Alabama, who did they play this year? Fresno State. I'm looking at this schedule. No offense to Tennessee fans, but y'all had an off year. It's pretty easy to say Ohio State won the strength of schedule. And I can elaborate on how the ESPN cooked the books because they started doing their comparisons on their show, and then they started doing it compared to top 40 teams, and then they would sneak Fresno State into the top 25 like it was some big quality win for Alabama. So it's pretty easy to say Ohio State had a better strength of schedule. So that's 2-0 underneath the criteria for Ohio State. And then there's head-to-head competition, which Ohio State and Alabama did not play this year. Although last time we played the king of the SEC, Alabama, Ezekiel Elliott ran all over them in a blowout when Ohio State put a stomping on Alabama to go, and we won the national championship that year. And then it says comparable outcomes of common opponents, and we didn't have any common opponents this year. So according to the rules, there is no conspiracy. Ohio State should have got into the college football playoff. That's where I got my idea that this thing was rigged, because how could you take 2-0 score in the rule book and miraculously put Alabama in? That's where you have the SEC Network and the ESPN and the Paul Feinbaum show and all this money. That's my case on paper.
Well, I'm going to go to you, LawTide. You heard what he said, and you've seen the video. He's basically saying that there's been some boosters, or somewhere there's been some briefcase full of money exchanged hands. And I just want you to tell all the viewers of Volunteer Roadshow just what you think about this video that Paul put together in his argument.
Well, I think Paul's got more assault all of them roads down there in Atlanta, Georgia, down there in Spaghetti Junction right about now, because he wants to get up here and he don't want to talk about those 2 losses they had this year. They don't want to talk about when they got drugged by OU right there at the house when Baker Mayfield was putting that flag right in the MO right there in the middle of the 50-yard line, or when they got a 50 points put on them by Iowa. Got beat by 31 points, and you want to talk about getting beat by Auburn at Auburn, where they were tough at home, where they had beaten Georgia at home. They were like, it was like playing at the Hogwarts School of Magic down there. Hey, we play tough. Hey, we come out with a loss. That's just how it is. You play the game. That's what we do down there in the SEC. We just try to settle it on the field. We don't get on here and talk about conspiracy this and conspiracy that. It's all about it's settled on the field, and the best 4 teams was in there. You're going to tell me they would have put Ohio State in there against Clemson? Clemson would have drugged them all over the field. And there ain't no doubt about it in my mind. And we already seen what Oklahoma did to them at their house. So you're going to tell me that Alabama didn't deserve to be in there? Let's talk about wins and losses. You lost 2 games. Hey, proud of you that you won. The Big Ten championship. Hey, congrats. You went and won the Cotton Bowl. But, hey, we won that Cotton Bowl that year before and drug USC off and down the field and put 50 on them. So don't tell me we don't deserve to be in that playoff, and we didn't deserve to play for this national championship, because that team, they earned every bit of it when they got in that playoff. They earned every bit of it. And they ended it with a good note, and that's a national championship, number 17, and it's sweet. And, I don't think you got a leg to stand on, Buckeye. I really don't. But, hey, stay salty, my friend.
Well, I want to ask you a question, LawTide. You saw the video, and this is a family show, so I know this part of it you're going to be real tempted to cuss. But he made some statements about some blown calls, some face masks, some bad calls on offsides. What do you think about them statements that Paul made about that?
Well, I got some pictures here. There's a lot of missed calls in that football game. I mean, shoot. You can talk about that one. You can talk about this one when Deshaun Hand's getting tackled going in there. We can talk about that one. Shoot, we could talk about this one where Tua's getting face masks. That one wasn't called. There's a lot of missed calls in this football game. It's a national championship game. Hey, I've hated the officiating in the college game for years. They're part-timers. They're like high school referees. They don't do it for a living. They don't do it 24/7 like the boys in the NFL do. They don't go to seminars. Hey, they're just part-timers. I've always said that. But, hey, don't get up here and cry about it. Game's won on the field.
Paul, this leads me to something I want to know. You're a big-time Big Ten fan, Ohio State fan. I want you to tell the viewers of the Volunteer Roadshow, and we've got a lot of Alabama fans that watch us, Georgia fans, Florida fans. I just want you to tell everybody what you think about the Big Ten versus the SEC.
Well, all I can go off here is fact, and our bowl record in 2017, 2018 bowl season was 7-1. 7-1. Ohio State put a domination in the Big Ten in the bowl games. We absolutely annihilated USC in the Cotton Bowl. But what's frustrating to me is I believe the Big Ten was the best college football or best conference in college football this year, yet they had no representation, and they were punished for that early game against Oklahoma. You have to tip your hat off to Baker Mayfield, the way he came into Columbus and played. Going into that fourth quarter, it was a close game, and he played amazing. I was very impressed by Oklahoma. But then who does Alabama play in the thick of the season? Mercer? So you're telling me you want Ohio State to start scheduling Mercer and have those cupcake wins, so we would have only had one loss and then gone as the Big Ten champion. And I'm not saying Alabama didn't deserve to be in. I'm saying according to the rules, when you're comparing those two comparable teams, the nod was to Ohio State. Now, if Kirby Horcutt would have came out and said it's not razor thin, it's not comparable, Alabama is unequivocally better, then that's fine. But why give Ohio State all this hope by saying that it's razor thin? That frustrated me. And the fact that the best conference in college football didn't have a representation in the playoff really needs to be reconsidered. To put 2 SEC teams in and 0 Big Ten teams is just not fair. And that's why I think there may be something behind the scenes going on that smells a little funny.
That brings me to this question. Do you think that there is an Alabama bias and an SEC bias? Do you think that's why there were 2 teams in the college football playoffs? What do you think about that? What's your opinion?
I mean, the Paul Feinbaum show, this guy's obsessed with Alabama and the SEC. They have a whole show on the SEC. It's absolutely crazy. Of course the fix is in for the SEC, and it's biased on a slant towards the SEC.
LawTide, you heard what he said. I want to give you a chance to respond to that. What do you got to say to Paul?
Hey, y'all can get up here and talk about how good you are and, what you deserve, and we're the greatest, we're the Big Ten and all this. I think Ohio State's got a damn good football team. I really do. But they're not better than Alabama this year. And I think we showed it on the field, the way we played against Clemson and the way we come back and beat Georgia. So it is what it is. Got a lot of haters in this world.
I want you to give out your best argument, LawTide, why you think the SEC is the creme de la creme, the number one, the big dogs, the big boys in college football.
Well, one thing, because you got Alabama in there with you. When you got Alabama in there, we're the straw that stirs the drink in this college football world. So, of course, it's going to be all right for everybody else to be in there. I mean, in my opinion, the SEC has been hands down been running college football for at least the last 10 years anyway. I mean, you look at the players that come out of this conference that go to NFL and play big-time NFL football and make that big-time NFL money. And they come to the SEC to do that. You know why? Because they want to play against the best competition there is in the country. And that's the SEC. Best coaches, best talent. Hey, that's where it's at.
Paul, you're over there jumping up and down. I wanted to give you the last word. Tell me what you got to say about what LawTide said.
All right, you cannot say the SEC has better coaches than the Big Ten. First of all, I have high respect for Nick Saban. I grew up as a Cleveland Browns fan. Believe it or not, he was our defensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick was our head coach. How about that? How about that duo? Bill Belichick and Nick Saban coaching the Cleveland Browns. I believe it was 1991 to 1994. I have a lot of respect for Nick Saban, and he has a lot of influence on his football from the state of Ohio. You just look in Ohio State's division alone. You have Urban Meyer. You have Jim Harbaugh. Franklin at Penn State is doing an incredible job. And I think one of the top coaches in all of college football is Mark D'Antonio. He faces the Giants in recruiting up there and a smaller program at Michigan State. And what he gets that program to do is incredible. Those four coaches alone are inside of Ohio State's division. It's a fight just to represent that side of the division in the Big Ten championship. But you can't even begin to compare the coaches. The coaches in the SEC right now is laughable. The Big Ten has better coaches. And I'd like to see you guys come up there in October and November when it's freezing cold in front of a stadium with 110,000 fans and actually play football in atmospheres like that. Ohio State always is traveling to Pac-10, Pac-12 country, to SEC country for these bowl games. You even get basically your home bowl games. I mean, we have a lot against us, and somebody's got to defend the Big Ten if these Giants are gonna put it in for SEC.
Oh my!
Well,
gosh.
you're doing a pretty good job defending them. I'm an SEC homer. I don't agree with what you're saying. I'm gonna give LawTide a chance to respond. I know what he's gonna say about the difference in the coaches. So LawTide, send us off on a good note there and respond to his nonsense about these coaches.
Well, you want to talk about your coaches up there? Well, let me tell you what we got down here in the West. We got. For one, we got those Bayou Bengals down there as Coach O, and they're always good. You got the new guy, Jimbo Fisher. He won national championship at FSU, and anybody didn't know that. You know, hey, we didn't play them this year either, didn't you? You know, hell, he wasn't the coach up there when we played them this year and beat them 24-3. But hey, you know, it is what it is. You got great coaches over there in the East now. You got Kirby Smart, Saban disciple. You're gonna have Jeremy Pruitt over there, Saban disciple. So I believe the coaching in the SEC is fixing to come on up. If it's not at the top, it's going to be the top of the cream. You know what I'm talking about? It's going to be at the top. Or as far as Jim Harbaugh goes, he's on his way out. Everybody knows he's on his way out down there in Michigan. They can't win about 8 or 9 games now. I mean, that's all they can do. I mean, everybody's sick of him. D'Antonio, hell, every time he plays Nick Saban, he just falls to pieces. He just melts all over himself because he can't hold a candle to him. And that just goes for everybody else. No, Urban's the same way too. Even when he was at Florida, we all remember when Urban Meyer was at Florida and he was having them heart attacks over there on the sidelines because he was having to play against Nick Saban. Get up here and beat your chest and talk about how great you are. Yeah, you beat us in 2014, but what y'all done since? Y'all ain't done nothing. So it is what it is. Alabama's won 2 national championships. Y'all ain't done nothing.
I'm glad y'all came on the show. This has been fun. I love talking all the conspiracies and controversies, but I'm going to have to side with LawTide on this one because, you know, I'm an SEC homer. But I do appreciate you coming on the show there, Paul. And, you know, a lot of you guys have been following me since the beginning, and this channel has really, really grown. And if y'all want to support me, the best way to support me is to like and subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to put LawTide's channel in the description. And Paul's also got a channel. And I'm going to put a link to the video to his tinfoil hat conspiracy about the SEC Invitational National Championship. So thanks for coming on the show, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Woo! Go Vols! We're going 15-0. I promise you that.